Hey everyone, Riddle here, and I've been neglecting my garden, people, and I'm sorry, but it's been winter, and even though things have been going on, it's just been a really hard winter for us here in Northern California. One of the things that happened shortly before I got home from traveling to New Zealand and Australia, which was amazing, was that we had this freak snowstorm, and we don't have snow here. So the trees, the indigenous trees, aren't designed to hold the weight of snow. And so this happened 2 days before we got home, and we got like 8 to 12 inches of snow, and it looked like an F1 tornado blew through here. Now that snow will be great for the stone fruit. I'm sure we're going to have amazing apples and pears and cherries and things this year, but it was really hard on the citrus and the trees. And why is it good for stone fruit? A lot of people don't know this, and it's kind of important. A lot of stone fruit, pears, apples, blah, 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 blah. You can look up what's on the entire list. They need a certain amount of hours that are below a certain temperature. And this is why you can't grow apples and pears with any kind of real value in desert climates. So that's also going to be a real challenge in regards to climate change in the future. But we had plenty of cold freezing temperatures this winter for Northern California and plenty of rain. We're no longer in drought, which is another huge blessing. And I don't use the word blessing very often. So let me catch you up on stuff that's going on here that I've been working on. And some of this stuff's going to be real basic. Some of it's going to freak you out, and some of it's a little more advanced. That's just who I am. First of all, I've been saving a lot of pee all winter long. Every time I empty a bottle of vinegar or a bottle of bleach, a bottle of whatever, I rinse it out really well and fill it with pee. Why am I saving lots of pee? Well, because the price of fertilizers are through the roof right now. I don't know if you've gone and looked at the price of fertilizers, but especially organic fertilizers. They are just, it's crazy. So I've saved a lot of my wood ash from burning, keeping fires going this winter, and a lot of urine to make my own organic fertilizer to feed the mass amount of trees and plants and vegetables that I have. The other thing I have going on right now is lots of weeds. But this is the cool thing. I never look at weeds. I hate wasting anything. Everything to me, almost everything, has some kind of value. So we've decided we're going to get chickens because of the whole egg shortage and crazy egg prices and just the precariousness of the world. I want to be as independent and off-grid as possible because it doesn't get better than that, right? And my mother used to always say, expect the worst and hope for the best, and you'll be fine, honey. So, where you see a big cart of weeds here and a lot more grass and weeds that need to be pulled out, we're almost done building this massive chicken coop. And what I'm doing with those weeds is an experiment for me, and there's information on it, how to do it out there, but I'm kind of just doing it my way. So I'm sure there's going to be a big learning curve. The cool thing about this, my tenant has helped to build this. Actually, he built most of it by himself. And he used almost everything on this chicken coop was repurposed. So that's awesome, because not only didn't cost us anything except for the chicken wire, but good for the planet too. Even this kick-ass steel door. I mean, isn't he a badass? And look, he even put like the slow catch on it. So if a chicken does run out, it won't get its head snapped off. So this is what I'm doing with all the weeds. And what is this? I'm creating a compost floor. And the reason I'm creating this compost floor before we get the chicks and the chickens is that I want it to break down and get full of insects and worms. And this way, the chickens are going to have this amazing organic source of protein that will be that can supplement between grain feedings, or if the shit hits the fan and, we have to free range or we run out of food, they're going to have this, like extra, very independent source of protein that'll be full of soldier flies and earthworms and what have you. So I've just the last couple of weeks started dumping and dumping and dumping all of this, all the weeds and compost in here. Now I'm trying to avoid putting stuff in here that's going to attract rats, of course, or other animals, because everything likes to eat chickens, although they're going to be secured at night. We got that all worked out. I'm also dumping my wood ash and making kind of like a sand pit or a ash pit for them, because people don't know, but wood ash is great for chickens to take little dust baths in, and it will help to keep fleas and ticks and lice off of them, because on a microscopic level, the wood ash is like little shards of glass, and so that's a good thing too. So that's how the chicken coop is coming along. Still need a little more paint. We need to get a ramp, of course, going up to there to the nesting boxes and their nighttime quarters, but really nice and substantial. And hopefully maybe I'll be able to build this out more to even let them free range even more so. But I would love to just let them run around the yard. The thing is, the hawks and everything eats chickens. If you've had chickens, you know this. This is my third go around with chickens. So one of the experiments I have going on here on the property, we've only been here a year, is I figure my instinct about this, and it's been my instinct for years, is that the climate is changing quicker than what we realize or what science is sharing or governments are sharing with us, because people would freak out. So I started to experiment planting trees, fruit trees and plants that are a zone higher than what we live in, which was a little disastrous this particular winter. Because we had just freakish amounts of rain and we had the snow and cold temperatures. So it was like the worst possible year I could have started this experiment. But I put in some chocolate sapote, S-O-P-O-T, I think it's spelled, which is a South American fruit. And they were doing great, and I was keeping them covered up. And then we had this huge flood, and they just couldn't take it anymore. And I lost both of them, and they weren't cheap. So that was a fail. But my finger limes, my Australian finger limes, are still alive. So that's a good sign. And the citrus made it through. So that's a good sign. And I'm going to just, my honeyberries, which is like a blueberry, but I believe it's actually in the honeysuckle family, because I just can't grow blueberries here to save my life. I mean, I've even tried the varieties they claim did well. So I'm trying this thing called a honeyberry, which is the color of a blueberry, but shaped like a cylinder, but they're supposed to be really delicious. And that's one of my experiments, and it's doing great. But again, I've got two of these, the one over there and this one. So fingers crossed, those are going to keep going. Another thing that I did in regards to manipulating nature a little bit is, because the flowers started blossoming and it was still so cold out, the apricot blossomed really early. There were no pollinators that could get to it. And so I don't think we're going to have any apricots this year, which is fine. They're a bit overrated, and maybe it'll give the tree a year that it can just relax. It'll relax and it'll be stronger next year. But you can see how the frost and the snow and lack of pollination just didn't form any fruit at all. She's looking very sad. So what I did when the peaches and the nectarines started to open up, and some of the other fruit, anticipating it being a little too cold for the bees to be able to do their thing, is I hit them up with a light spray of gibberellic acid. And the gibberellic acid is a hormone, and it sets the buds, which meaning instead of the bud lasting just 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, it can last like quite a while. And why I did that was I figured the longer I can get the bud to set, hopefully we'd have some warm days that the bees could come in and finally get them pollinated. And so we got bees today, which is a really good sign. And we still have flowers, which means, hear 'em, which means we're going to have fruit. So that was a good move. I'm glad I did that and I didn't wait. And my last experiment, which we're still waiting to see because it could take another year or two. When we moved into this property, we have a lot of aged out old apple trees and pear trees. And I love mushrooms, but mushrooms aren't easy to cultivate, you know, in a wild kind of way. And I wondered, you know, what kind of mushrooms I could cultivate here. So I have some wine caps in the vegetable gardens that actually came back last year. So I know the mycelium is alive, and the wine cap mushrooms specifically are great to integrate in your vegetables, raised beds, and in Oregon, it's one of the secrets that the old pot farmers used to use, was planting these wine cap mushrooms around their weed, because they've got this great relationship with the root systems where they help the weed to take in a lot more nutrition, break stuff down and take in more nutrition. So I've got the wine caps going, and I've seen a handful, so we'll see what happens with that. It's only been a year and a half. But with the apple trees, what I read is that morel mushrooms thrive in old apple orchards and under old fruit trees. So what I did, I bought about 50 gallons. Well, it was in a dry formula, but it made about 50 gallons of mushroom spawn, morel mushroom spawn, and then I poured it around all of my fruit trees, my old apple trees and what have you. But the thing is, we had so much rain and floods. It'll be really interesting to see what survived. And they said it could take up to 3 years before we saw any signs of morel mushrooms. So I'm just being patient on that one. And I'm not even certain like what time of year spring would be here for them to come up, because I've never found them in the wild here in Northern California. So this is a massive experiment. So I just got to keep my eyes peeled around where I put the mushroom spawn. I also put it around the raised beds, around the wood chips, just to try it, just to see. So fingers crossed, if it's successful, that'll be a fun video to make. And that's pretty much everything that's happening right now on the property. Got some new fruit trees, which is really exciting. The apple trees that I put in last year are doing really well. I've got some neat varieties, some heirloom varieties. I've got one, the cinnamon apple, that literally has like this weird aftertaste of cinnamon. And I got a black Arkansas apple, which is this apple that just has this gorgeous, like so dark red purple, it almost looks black. The bananas, the dwarf bananas, survived the winter. It looks like they got really huge, the root systems down in the ground, and they're starting to come back. What'll be interesting is if we have a long enough season this year, if we actually are going to get fruit, hopefully. If not, they still look really cool, and it's always fun to see banana trees because it makes you feel like you live somewhere warmer than what you do. The herbs, after just 1 year of being planted, have gotten massive, and they're doing fantastic. All the herbs are coming back to life. You can see them all along here. African daisies need cut back for sure. The fennel, that's looking fantastic. The roses are coming back beautifully. I'm gonna have quite a bloom of roses soon. Yeah, they look awesome. Let me show you a couple of the new trees. We've got some really great citrus But I'm waiting because we're still getting frosts. I mean, I'm sure if you're in the Midwest, you're like, duh. Yeah, it's going to be like a week or two after Mother's Day before we're not getting frost. But here, I can just never get used to it. And we're at like one of the highest elevations. So that's why we got hit with the big snow and why we're still getting frost every morning. But this is the one I'm really curious about. It's called a plumecot. A plumecot. So it's a cross between a plum and an apricot. Yeah. Very winter hardy, so that's always a good thing. And now I can't find the tag that had the flavor description, but oh, here we are. Check this out. The plumecot is a cross between a plum and an apricot that results in intensely sweet fruit. This variety has tender greenish yellow skin and a candy sweet juicy orange flesh. Ripens mid-July. Yes, that sounds great. And then I got this improved French prune. Just because we have a lot of different types of plums, and the more different types of plums we have, the better pollination we get. And if you ever see one of these, this is an osmanthus bush. Osmanthus is what they make beautiful Chinese tea from. It smells incredible, it's almost incredible. It smells like a jasmine almost, but even more perfumey. So we've got two types of species now. This is a yellow one, and here's a white one that's actually blooming that I didn't get to in time. But the smell is nuts. And these are all citrus trees that are waiting to go in the ground after the frost is done. I liked this kumquat a lot because it doesn't have seeds, which is important to have seedless fruit when it's small because there's not a lot of fruit to begin with, but kumquats are amazing. This Buddha's hand is just a freak show. It's not really edible, but it looks beautiful, but you can make some amazing like limoncello from it and what have you. And then this here, this is a variegated pink lemon, and this is just a beautiful tree. And I can't wait to get that in the ground. It'll be another couple weeks. And one more back here, which it was, I don't know what it is. It was behind this German ground cherry. It was a blood orange, but the top of it, the grafted part, died. So I'm guessing it's some type of lime, because they usually use the limes to graft the top on. And those are the citrus trees I still need to get into the ground. These are interesting. This is an experiment. Suriname cherry. So Suriname cherry, I believe they're from India, and they do really well in hot climates. And that's why I put it in greenhouse temporarily for the winter, because it didn't really have an established enough root system that I felt safe putting it in the ground yet. But this was a gift from my sister. But it makes this beautiful edible fruit and turns into this large shrub that creates all these beautiful berries. These little suckers, they're really struggling, which is sad. We've got some rot going on here. What the heck? I don't understand what's happening with this, but anyway, this is tea. This is actually in the camellia family. It's a sinensis, I believe, and this is where all forms of tea come from. And this little struggling thing right here is also one of them. And again, I wasn't sure if it could handle the winter or not, so I put it away in here. And looks like it's not very happy. We got some bad things going on here, but soon enough I'll get her outside and she'll be fine. This is another tea tree that I kept in here for the winter, and this is another one of the Suriname cherries, and I can't tell if this is alive or not. I might have lost this one. That's disappointing because they're not cheap. Anyway, that's growing things, right? And when I left for 2 weeks, I kind of had to leave everything in the hands of friends and tenants, and they just don't get it. They can't love things the way plant lovers love things. Oh, all these does really need water. So I'm going to get off of here. I think I've shown you a lot of what's going on, and I hope that makes you happy, my garden people who I've been neglecting so much. Oh, look, here's the bananas coming back to life. What's crazy about these bananas is I had them planted at the other property, and they just weren't getting enough light, and it was too cold, and they were alive in the ground, and I didn't even realize they had multiplied, but they just never grew. It was like a clump of dormantness. And so when I pulled them out of the ground and brought them here, when I separated it, I had 10 banana trees, and now they're all up and down the driveway. And so those, of course, are going to like spread out, and it's going to look like a little tropical paradise through here. You know what these are? This sucker, hopefully this year, is going to produce. I mean, it's only been in the ground for a little over a year, and you can actually eat the leaves, major antioxidant, but those are goji berries. Goji berries are really easy to grow. Tasty. They probably are going to attract birds. Hopefully I'll get to the berries before the birds do. I also have, it's another thing that I've brought over from the other property, cactus fruit, paddle cactus. Oh heck, what's the name of these? These are the ones you can actually eat the cactus, and they produce like this beautiful edible fruit. And again, they look really happy. They've only been in the ground for a year now, but we'll see if it gets hot enough and we have a long enough season for them to actually produce fruit. But in a pinch, if we were starving, that's good eating. There's a lot of traditional Mexican recipes to make with those. Okay, I'm gonna say bye again, because I got to get that greenhouse watered, because I didn't realize it's just too much to do. There's always, when you got this going on, it's never ending. Bye.